So here we're looking for the incorrect step. Very common question, and a lot of people get kind of confused. So what I'll kind of tell you is, if you see a mistake, say you see a mistake happen between two steps. So I see a mistake happen between this one and this one. Well, the answer would be right here, step 1. If something happened between step 1 and step 2, I would pick step 2 as the incorrect step or statement. Okay? So let's look through this here. The best thing to do, I found, is just to kind of do the problem again and just compare as you go. So I'm going to rewrite the problem here. Alright, so if I was to solve this, I would distribute a 5x minus 10 minus 4 equals 2x plus 6 minus 11. And let me see if I got the same thing here. Okay, yeah, I do. Then I would combine like terms. Now these are both negative. Alright. Over here, I got 11 negatives. Okay, so comparing those, and look, oh, there's the mistake right there. So the mistake happened between 1 and 2, so the answer is it happened in step 2. Alright, next one here, section part. We're going to solve again. They're just saying sometimes we might have no solution or infinitely many solutions. So let's go through this here and kind of deal with it as it comes up. So 15x equals 30 divided by 15, and x equals 2. That's an example of one solution, right? You just got a normal answer. Over here, I'll solve this one now. 7x plus 14 equals 7x plus 14. Now, you may notice I got the same thing on both sides. So if I didn't notice and I just kept solving and got the variables on the same side, so this is what's weird. So the variables went away. So this is an example of an infinite number of solutions. And the reason I can tell is I got a true statement right there. 14 does equal 14. Okay. And if you realize, oh, look, they're the same thing on both sides, so any x will work. X equals 4, there's nothing to do there, it's done. It's just one solution. That is the answer. Okay, so same thing over here. I'll just keep solving. I'm going to get the x's on both sides. I get 1 equals negative 5. Now the difference here is, up here I got a true statement, 14 equals 14. Here I got a false statement. Okay, so this is no solution. Okay, and that was my false statement is what I got. Alright, and then solving right here. And that just gave me one answer. Alright. For number 18, it says there are an infinite number of point solutions on a line. Name 5 ordered pairs on the solution. So let me see if I got a straight edge here. So I'm going to graph this thing. So I got 2, positive 2, down 3, to the right 1. Okay. So I could do it this way, but by unit 1 we weren't really graphing. So let me show you another way real quick here. So then I can just pick some points on the line, but what they really want us to do here is plug in some x and y's. So I would basically kind of make a table here. So like if I made x 0, alright, return to 0 plus 2, so I get y equals 2. So that means the point 0, 2. Oh look, hey, that was on there. Okay. And then I'll just do one more. You just have to keep doing this. If I plugged in a positive 1, right, I get negative 1. Oh, look, there's the point 1, negative 1. So just plug in a few more points and you would continue getting answers that way. Okay, unit 2. So let's see here. State if it's a function or is it not a function. Okay, so A is, that is yes right there, that's a function. That is also a function. That is also a function. and this one is not a function. If you look why, so let's talk about what just happened here. I have two repeating x values. So if I have repeating x's, they better be with the same y's. Okay, and so since I have a repeating x with different y's, that is not a function. Okay. Find the unit rate of miles per gallon when the car drove 220 miles per 5 gallons. So we want the unit rate. Okay, so basically all I do is I did 220 miles with 5 gallons. Okay, so we just want to figure out what would it be if we did 1 gallon. So I'm going to just divide that out, give the unit rate. You get 44 miles. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and write the explicit and recursive formulas. So what I need to do is find the first term. The first term is -8. I need to find the common difference. So how do I get from -8 to -5? So what do I add to -8? So that's going to be a 3. All right, that's what I'd have to add to this number to make it that number. That's the D. And then I can go ahead and write the explicit formula, which is A of n equals A of 1, which is the first term, plus n minus 1, and the D in this case is a 3. I can also write the recursive formula because all I need for that is the D. And all right, there's my answer right there. Over here, same thing, find the first term. A of 1 is a 7. Now this thing's going down. So that means what would I add to a 7 to make it equal 3? And I would add a -4. Okay. So I'm going to write A of n equals 7 plus n minus 1 D. And if I just do like this, that says subtraction, so I got to put this in parentheses. And the recursive formula, -4. Okay. 22. Well, what they'd want me to do here is list the first 6 terms. All right, so remember how we do this. I'm not going to list all 6, but I'll get the first few for you. So basically, remember, if I want to find a term, all I got to do is make the n a 1, and that would be the first term. If I make the n a 2, that would be the second term. If I make the n a 3, that would be the third term. So I'd have to do this 6 times, but just for the sake of time here, I'm going to do first 3 here. So f of 1 is when I plug in a 1 for the n. F of 2 is when I plug in a 2 for the n. And f of 3 is when I plug in a 3 for the n. So I get 2 minus 5 is -3. That's going to be a 4, -1. That's going to be 6 minus 5. That's a +1. Okay. So for the sequence, determine the recursive formula. So there's my first term right there. So what I need to know is D. So how do I get from -3 to -1 to 1? So I would add a 2 to this, right? Add a 2 to that. It'd be easier to see if I kept on going. So the recursive is A of n. They use the F, so I'm going to go ahead and use the F notation, but it's the same thing. F of n equals the first term, which is -3. Oh, sorry, that's the explicit. The recursive is n minus 1 plus D, which in this case is 2. Now for the explicit, it's F of n equals the first term plus n minus 1 times D, which was 2. All right, that's how I got from there to there. D was equal to 2. Okay. The height of the water level in a tank is 200 inches on day 1. On day 2, it's 203 inches. On day 3, it's 206 inches. And day 4, okay, right. Write the recursive formula. So if I just made it basically a table out of this, day 1, it was 200. Day 2, it was 203. Day 3, it was 206. So that's my first term right there, and they're telling me that. Okay. So if I wrote a recursive, just here's my formula or my sequence: 200, 203, 206. So I'm adding a 3 every single time, right? So the recursive formula is A of n. Oh, they used h in this case. H of n equals n minus 1 plus d, and d is 3. Carla borrowed $18,000 to start a business. Her business earnings are $750 per week for the first 10 weeks. Carla's balance Y in any week X is equal to the total earnings minus the amount she borrowed. Select a few quadrants as possible that would allow you to create a graph. So basically, she's borrowing money, okay, or she has cost. So realistically, you know, if she doesn't ever lose any money, she would be in quadrant 1. Okay. But if she borrowed money, you know, over here she has negative money, it would kind of be down here. So it would probably be in quadrants 1 and 3 because she borrowed money. That's all one line. All right, Unit 3. The table shows buying tickets. Okay. So John, what do we want to do here? So find the average cost when buying 5 tickets. So a little bit misleading, but basically the average cost, I'm assuming for one ticket, so $35 divided by 5 is $7. So they're cheaper if you buy more. Okay. John buys apples for $1.50 each. Create an equation and a graph the cost. So 150 is each, right? So you get one apple for $1.50. Okay. Let's actually put the money on top. For $1.50, you get one apple. Okay, that's my slope. So I can just do 1.5 over 1. You're going to start from 0 because, you know, if you don't buy anything, you have 0. So your b is going to be 0. So the equation is going to be y equals 1.5x plus 0. So that's my y-intercept, and there's no negatives here. So I'm going to make this my y-intercept right there. And I'm going to go up 1.5 to the right 1. Okay. Then I can draw in my line, which makes sense because for $1.50, so if I bought 2 of them, right? So if I had it like this is 0, 1, and 2, it goes up to right here, which is 3, and 2 apples would cost me $3. A phone company charges a rate for each hour that Jill wants to use the phone. Write an equation to express the total cost. Okay, so you have cost equals C. Okay, and the rate, we don't know what the rate is. Okay, that's like your M, and for how much time. So if I was to write this as y equals mx plus b, okay, the cost would be the y, the rate would be the m, and the t would be the x. In this case, you're going to start from 0. All right. Jose will spend exactly $31 to buy books and songs online. Books cost $5 and songs cost $1. Create an equation. Okay. So let's do. They tell us x is books. Okay. So it's $5 for a book, plus $1 for a song, and he's only going to spend $31. So you could graph this a couple different ways. You could do x and y intercepts, solve it for y. Solving for y is going to be pretty easy. So I'm just going to subtract 5x to both sides. So I get y equals negative 5x plus 31. Okay, so there's my equation. So if I was to graph this, now it's going to be hard because I'm not going to be super exact graphing 31, but I'll make each one of these worth 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Okay. And I'll go ahead and make these worth 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And this is, remember, the extra books. Right? And these are all my songs. So 31, which is right here, and I'd go down 5 to right there to the right 1. So if I was to graph it, it looks something like this. Okay. So if I wanted to have some combinations, I would just pick some points on the line, like looks like 5 and 5 right here. Okay, so I could say 5 books and 5 songs, and just pick some points on the line. All right. The amount of water in a tank in gallons is a function of time in hours. Okay. So the tank is empty in 11 hours. So if we look at it down here, that's going to be a true. Yeah. The maximum water in the tank is 11 gallons. So it looks like we come all the way up here is going to be how much is in there. Right? So that's over 100, so that's false. The max amount of water in the tank is 110. Yeah, that seems about right. The rate of change is the amount of water is 10 gallons per hour. So I need to see if I can find a couple of points here. So here's the point 6 and 50. That's the point 650. And this is the point 11, 0. So if I was to draw a right triangle in, I'm going to go down 50 because these numbers don't match up, right? I'm going to go down 50, and I'm going to go from 6 to 11. That's to the right 5. Okay, and so I'd get negative 50 over 5, which equals negative 10. And they said the slope is decreasing at 10. So there's my negative is my decreasing. So that's true. At 6 hours, there's 50 gallons. Yeah, we just figured that one out randomly. At 90 minutes, 90 hours, sorry, there's 2 gallons in the tank. At 90, that is false. So let's state the slope and graph the line. So start from positive 1. That's my y-intercept, and my rate of change is 1 over 4. So that is up and right. 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So over here, same thing here. So I could do this next one. It's in point slope form. So I have a point. I'll do this 2 ways, but I have a point. And the point that I have is negative 1, 2. If you remember, they come out backwards, and the rate of change is 3 over 1 negative. So I'm going to start from negative 1, 2. I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. I can draw my line that way. Okay, but it's probably better to solve it for y, so I'm going to do that real quick. I think so I'm going to say y minus 2 equals negative 3x minus 3. Add a 2 to both sides. and y equals negative 3x minus 1. So I could graph it this way, start from negative 1, all right, go down 3, and to the right 1. So you can see it work out either way. Okay. So we want to do what we just did above this. Okay. So I'm going to solve for y. Oh, same thing actually. So it looks like what I wanted to do, for this one I wanted to do it this way, and then the second part I wanted to do it this part. So I did both of those right there. Next one here. So what should be true about what we just did on the other side? Same slope. Okay. And points. But all right. State the ordered pair. So we're going to do this by the intercept. So for this one, remember to find the x-intercept, you make the y 0. Okay. And for the y-intercept, you make the x 0. Okay. So I get 5x equals 10, x equals 2, divide by 2, y equals 5. Those are technically points. Alright, so I can graph that. X equals 2, y equals 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Connect points. Okay, so now let's do the same thing, but let's do it with y equals mx plus b. So I'll subtract 5x of both sides. Divide by 2. Negative 5 over 2x plus 5. So I'd start from 5, that's my b. And then my slope is down and right. 1, 2, 3. And just to prove the same, I'm going to come back up here and do it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there it is. So it's that point. Then down 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And to the right 2. Yeah. So it should be the same line. No difference. Okay. And what should we see here? What should be true about the same line, right? Same line. Just like that's really what they wanted before earlier, so same line. All right, so what happens when you do absolute value? So here's the parent function, right? So when you do a number out here, this is going to be down. When you add or subtract something down here. So I'm going to take this same graph and go 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces down. Okay. Bob pays X dollars to rent a bicycle for 1 day plus $4 per day, per hour. What is the equation of the cost? 6 hours. So X dollars to rent the bike. So you got to pay. Okay. So basically the cost is going to equal $4 per hour, right? Okay. And so if you rented it for 6 hours, it would be 4 times 6. $4. Okay? All right, give the domain and the range. So remember, domain is just all the x's. So we write this with brackets. So 0, 2. You don't have to write them if they repeat, so there's 2 4s. So I don't have to. The range are the y values, and same thing, they should be in order, and I don't have to repeat them. So -8, -4, -2, 0, and 2 is this thing. And then the question is it a function? And the answer is no, because I have repeating x's with different y's right there. So the answer is no.